We are back. Welcome to the final quarter on the CBS 8 app. I am Jake Uriani. That is Karthik Venkatraman. Karthik, we are... first of all, we got to address this jersey you're wearing. What is it? It's a salt potato?
Salt potatoes, baby. Very, very, very few people have this jersey. Actually, I don't know if that's true. But so the Syracuse Mets, AAA affiliate of the New York Mets in Syracuse, New York, Syracuse University, where I went to college. Shout out.
Shout out.
And there was a promotion giveaway for these jerseys when I went to school there, and they were the Syracuse salt potatoes because salt potatoes are a wonderful central New York delicacy. And,
you didn't think when you signed in for the show you were going to get a salt potato rundown,
exactly.
Did you?
But now that people have it, this is what we get when it's a light day in sports, I suppose.
When you're in the middle of the All-Star break and you don't have much. No, we got plenty to talk about, actually. That's not just the Syracuse salt potatoes.
There's a whole show about the Syracuse salt potatoes.
Buckle up. We got 30 minutes on the Syracuse salt potatoes, folks.
The salt potatoes.
We, of course, will start with our San Diego Padres. Karthik, they're done with the unofficial first half, and they finished it right at 500, 48-48. How would you quantify the first half of the season for the San Diego Padres?
It was up and it's down. You're in and you're out. What's that Katy Perry song? That's how I feel.
You're hot and you're cold.
You're yes and you're no. That's kind of how the San Diego Padres first half of the season, if you will, went for me. I thought it was huge that they grabbed those two games at the end of that Blue Jay series that got them to 500. I feel like the mood would feel extremely different if we were going into the second half of the season and they weren't 500. I think maybe the alarm bells would have been ringing maybe a little bit more. I don't know why. It would have just maybe been like one more game.
There's a morale thing to it for sure.
It is a morale thing, and like there's confidence going in the break, and that's good for this team. They got Mason Miller out there, which was nice for, he hasn't been pitching a lot lately. So to get him going out there, and then he's still in the All-Star game as well. And I think, that gives you hope going into the second half that, your best hitters weren't hitting their best throughout the entire first half of the season. This team's still 500. They haven't gotten the best pitching effort. They're still 500. There's a lot of things you can say that was negatively about this team, yet they're still 500 and not too far out of the playoff chase.
You're a little bit nicer than I'm going to be. You're right on some of those topics. But to me, the first half, I could summarize it with one word, and it's disappointing. Incredibly disappointing.
Sure.
I think when you talk about the amount of money put into this roster, that cannot be a 48-48 team at the All-Star break. That team underperformed wildly. The offense is one of the worst in almost every category in all of baseball. Like, it was an ugly first half, to be completely honest. And again, no slight to these guys, but Padres constantly having to run out guys like Griffin Canning and Lucas Giolito. We've seen the Walker Buehler start to fall off. Like, that rotation is not a playoff rotation. That offense, as it is right now, is not a playoff offense. So they better have a much better second half, which is really only 66 games, if they want to have any chance. I'm just curious if we've seen the best parts of this team or not. Like, is this the true team, or did they really just have that bad of a first half and they can't uptick it?
I guess that's the thing. And I feel like I'm looking half glass full, like there is potential for more because I've seen this team and their pieces that they have on the roster perform at a higher level at a consistent basis too. So I feel like there's an expectation for me that they are going to be better in the second half, but I mean, maybe they have shown just like this is the funk that they're in this season, but who knows? Maybe and the way that the first half ended is a rallying point for this team to maybe just grow a little bit closer and go, or maybe I'm not saying that they're going to do it. I'll put it like that. I think there's potential for them to do it based off of what I've seen, the guys that they're going to get back from injury, presumably here in the second half of the season. That's going to make them, I believe, a stronger team. Do I think they're a contender for the World Series, which is their expectation? No, not at all. Like, even if they reach their peak, I don't think that I would consider them a World Series contender unless they can reach the peak of 2024 entering the playoffs, Padres, which I just don't see happening. Do I think this is a team that can make the playoffs by playing better? Yeah.
They got a couple things going for them. They have a really easy remaining 66 games. I think they're like the third or fifth easiest strength of schedule to finish out the year. The hope is that you get a Nick Pivetta back. They kind of kept referencing, hey, after the All-Star break, he might be ready to go. And you got the trade deadline coming up. And we'll see what A.J. Preller does. It's August 3rd this year. Feels like it's very late into the season for a trade deadline. But This trade deadline is going to be really, really interesting, Karthik, when you talk about how A.J. Preller is going to handle it. I was on Locked On Padres today earlier with Javier Reyes, and him and I were talking a lot about, what will A.J. Preller's approach be for this deadline. I kind of think it's going to have to fall somewhere in the middle where they're probably buying and selling a little bit. You and I talked a little bit about this on our Padres pregame show that we had on our air the other day. To me, Adrian Morejon is a piece that I think the Padres could probably get a haul for, even though he's going to be a rental for whoever trades for him. But you got a southpaw throwing 100. Somebody may make him a great setup pitcher, or they're a closer, depending on what they decide to do. So the fact that I don't think the Padres are going to be able to re-sign him, I think they try and make a move and try and bolster. To me, their biggest need, everyone's going to say offense because of how bad it's been. But you have the horses in the stable. They just need to perform. Their biggest need has to be starting pitching and to get a stronger rotation going into the back part of this season.
Yeah, for sure. Presumably, if a guy like Nick Pivetta gets healthy, if Joe Musgrove's able to come pitch, then you just need some back-end rotation guys that can really fill this thing out. I'm not saying that Joe Musgrove's going to come back and be peak Joe Musgrove. And I'm not saying, I don't know, we'll see how well Nick Pivetta is able to perform. Or, if he ends up getting, more irritated with injuries. You never know what's going to happen at that point. But I do agree with you. Adrian Morejon is probably their most sellable asset, because we heard from A.J. Preller the other day as the draft was going on. He was asked about, would you potentially give away a guy like not give away, but trade away a guy like Mason Miller? And he pretty much was like, we brought him with the intention of keeping him long term. And that's the intention that we're going to stay with. So if that's the case, then the only really other guy they can get rid of that makes sense that they'll get assets back for is Adrian Morejon. And then where do they go from there, and what does that retrieve for them will be the big thing. But if I also know something about A.J. Preller, he doesn't really just ever make one move. Right. It feels like he makes multiple moves. So I don't know. The way that I see it and the way that I sit on it is I would have a really hard time with the Padres over recent years saying, we're going to be contending for World Series. World Series is what we're aiming for. And they repeat this over and over and over again. And then as the trade deadline comes along, they're going to be sellers. Yeah. I feel like that's a conflicting message that you're sending. I think this Padres team will still be in contention for wild card by the time that the trade deadline rolls around. How far out, how close they'll be, that's something I guess we're going to see. But I would have a hard time believing A.J. Preller is going to sell big. I just don't know.
One, it's a hard roster to retool, given the contracts that you have out to the Bogarts, the Machados, the Merrills, the Tatises. You don't just tear it down and start over. Two, I think the only way Mason Miller gets traded, and I don't think it's going to happen, but the only way is if somebody A.J. Preller is A.J. Preller and just makes that unbelievable offer going, look, here are the keys to the mansion. We want Mason Miller. We have to have him. Is the only way that deal gets done. We'll talk a little more Padres coming up on the other side of this break, and plenty more, including the FIFA World Cup and SDFC getting back in action. Stick with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the final quarter on the CBS 8 app. Karthik Venkatraman, Jake Garriani here. Karthik, real quickly, let's wrap up this Padres talk. Do they or do they not make the 2026 MLB postseason?
I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to somehow barely miss out, man. I don't know. It's hard. I think the hard sell for me is, yes, they could get guys back from injury, but then the other side of it is they continuously seem to get more guys on the injured list. So it's like a revolving door of who's on the injury list and who's not. And maybe this they're just going to come up just short is what I think is going to happen.
They start on Friday when they get back to play on a 10-game road trip that goes through Kansas City, Miami, and where was the third one? Atlanta. So it goes Kansas City, Atlanta, Miami. And 10-game road trip to begin the All-Star break, coming out of it, that's a tough
Especially
ask.
Atlanta's such a good baseball. I know they just swept them, but that's a good baseball team. And the Marlins are, the team that they're trying to catch right now in the wild card. So
right, yeah. For those not paying attention, we were building the standings the other day. I was like, the Miami Marlins have the third wild card right now. Good for them. But the Padres, it's doable. It's 100% doable. They could get to that wild card and get in, but they got to play a lot different baseball than they've been playing in that first half. And we've seen a couple upticks. Even though Manny's only hitting 205, it's like the home runs are there. Though. Yeah, the home runs are there, the RBIs are there, and you do see improvement, I think, a little bit at the plate. And you got guys like Jake Cronenworth who have come back and really hit the ball pretty well. So we'll see if the stars can be stars. I said it from day one with this roster. They have to perform to make sure this team wants to get where they want to go, and so far they haven't. And we'll see with 66 games remaining if they can pull it off. Let's talk a little World Cup, because this has been a lot of fun. Some wild semifinal matches that we had. We do now have a final. It's going to be Spain against Argentina. It's going to be Lamine Yamal at 19 against Lionel Messi in his final World Cup. This was some thrilling stuff. Argentina's been getting by on the skin of their teeth. This is going to be an interesting match to me. I think Karthik, Spain's only given up 1 goal this entire World Cup.
Yeah,
it's a great defense.
Yeah, man, they've been playing fantastic defense. I honestly thought France was going to come out the way that they had just been playing was just spectacular. But Spain, that unbeaten streak is no phony thing. What is it, 37 unbeaten matches in a row now for them? I mean, these guys they're playing some soccer. that defense is good. They come up with the timely goals and they're winning. And it's just like, I don't know what else to say. They're my pick now over Argentina, but now I look at Argentina and I'm like, I can't count because like if this is a 1-goal game at the end of the match, it could be a 2-goal game at the end of the match. And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, there's no reason with how Argentina's just been able to somehow break the hearts of every opponent they've played seemingly recently, whether it's Cape Verde, Egypt, England. England just toss that match away by just deciding to just sit back in their back half and try and survive every single Argentinian attack. And Argentina,
what a masterclass, by the way.
Masterclass choke.
In English's coach, what's his name? England's coach, Tuchel. What a masterclass in just botching a lot of things. The way he handled it after they won.
Yeah, against Norway.
Yeah, and Jude Bellingham's like, I don't even think that guy knows what it's like to be out there. And then to just sit there and try and hold on to that lead and blow it. That was some brutal coaching.
I said this in a couple of group texts. Their worst choke since trying to achieve world domination is what England did in that one. And but yeah, I don't know. You can't count out Argentina. They've come up clutch. They know what it's like to perform and deliver in the clutch moments. I think Spain's going to be a completely, different sort of task for them in that one. We'll see who comes out on top. This World Cup, I will say this, has been absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Each match has just been so thrilling, it feels like, to watch. The matches have had so much drama, so much intensity, so many last-second goals. I don't know. In my memory, I've been watching the World Cup for some years now since I was a kid. I can't remember one that in my lifetime that's been better than this.
It's been so fantastic, man. I completely agree with you. I've been hooked from the jump. We spent a lot of time up in Irvine with the United States men's national team. That run was fun while it lasted, but the whole World Cup, yeah, it's been really stunning. And honestly, to your point, I was going to say France was going to win the whole thing. They were my pick from the jump.
They were my pick too.
To see Spain come out and do what they've done. I like Spain in this World Cup final. I mean, I didn't think they stood a chance against France. Not stood a chance, but I really did. I thought France was going to win that game 2-0 because Spain's thing is they don't score a ton, but they don't give up goals, man. They do not give up goals. Watching Lionel Messi, it's kind of funny. You're either going to have Lamine Yamal at 19 win a World Cup in his first ever goal, or Lionel Messi win his final World Cup, which is super great. And then also,
if Messi wins, I don't want to hear any GOAT debate conversation.
It's already over.
I don't even. Yeah, it's already over. But if I ever hear the words of Cristiano Ronaldo in the same sentence as Lionel Messi when we're talking of greatest of all time, I don't want to hear it. If he wins back-to-back World Cups at the age that he's at, in the fashion that he has, I mean, it's not like he's not been scoring goals this tournament. I know he hasn't the last couple of matches, but it's not like he hasn't been scoring goals this tournament at all. He's been spectacular, as always, delivered a big-time assist in that last.
Man, it's just that ball into the box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this guy's still delivering at his age. For all those people who thought he was going to drop off after going to the MLS, tough news for y'all. This guy has been fantastic. We're watching one of the greatest athletes of all time. It's sad to see that this is going to be his last World Cup, but as you said, Lamine Yamal, maybe a new budding star coming into the fray.
It is funny to watch these teams that have had so much success in this World Cup. The stars are really shining.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I think could be an issue with the United States. I know everyone wants to say it's Christian Pulisic, and look, there's plenty of conversation about how the World Cup ended for him. We now know that the injury was quite serious and that he had to come off, and even when he was on the pitch, it wasn't a great World Cup for Pulisic. But I think the United States, if they ever want to make a run in the World Cup, you got to have a star. This is what it's proven this year around, at least in my opinion.
I also think for the United States, they've got to find better competition that they play moving up to World Cups. They got to start playing those South American teams. I'm sorry, USA sports as a whole, not just talking about like our national teams, but USA sports as a whole is fantastic at marketing sporting events and creating these tournaments that nobody should care about, and then all of a sudden they care about.
Right.
We need to figure out some sort of way for our soccer teams to be involved with playing European teams, South American teams, have teams like Brazil, Argentina come over here for some friendlies or some like mini tournament that you create so our team can go up against the best countries in the world. So when we go take on a Belgium in the round of 16, we don't look like we forgot that we played soccer and the moment is too big for us. That's what I'd like to see moving forward, because I do feel like we are at the highest level of the step that we're at right now. But to take that next jump and to be serious contenders in these things, move into the quarterfinals consistently, semifinals, and maybe one day we see them in a final of, this kind of magnitude, we're going to need to see them play more consistent and better competition to really up our level. It's not good enough to just grab the guys at the highest level of soccer and bring them in. As a team, you need to be able to play the best countries in what they're doing too.
Totally agree. I think Mauricio Pochettino did a lot of really good things for the United States men's national team. But then you kind of take a look at the run and you go, okay, Paraguay, Australia, Bosnia and Herzegovina. No slight at those, but those aren't the Belgiums. Those aren't the Spain. Yeah, to get to that level, they need to do a lot more of exactly what you're talking about. We'll see if they can get there. I think it reinvigorated a lot of people for the United States men's especially. And hopefully they can build off that. You can't take those, one step forward, two steps back. So we'll see what happens with the United States men's national team. But Spain, Argentina, Sunday, the final for the FIFA World Cup. We will be right back here on the final quarter on the CBS 8 app. Stick around. And welcome back for our final segment of the final quarter on the CBS 8 app. Jake Uriani, Karthik Venkatraman. Do you remember we still have a MLS team here in San Diego? It feels like it's been 3 years since San Diego FC was on the pitch, obviously taking the World Cup break, so they have been off for, I think, a month almost, if not more. They're going to return to action in late July 22nd against Colorado. Karthik, there's been a lot of talk about SDFC this season. Obviously, the first half, if you will, was nowhere near what anybody, I think, in that organization wanted. It's nowhere near the expectations that Tyler Heaps and Mike Ivaras have talked about. Along with all that, you have the Chucky Lozano drama going on still, which we'll get into because Tyler Heaps did address it at their media availability, and we kind of got some candid conversation from Tyler. What does SDFC need to do to give themselves a shot at the postseason? They're sitting 10th, right outside of that 9th and final spot. There's plenty of time left for them, too. It felt like, to me, Karthik, that team played, and Tyler Heaps actually talked about this a little bit, played really well for 80 minutes of a match most of the time, and then could not finish. Right, and could not finish. And it was like
time and
over
again.
and over and over again. So what does Azul and Chrome need to do?
Yeah, stop choking away matches. That'd be a good start.
Pretty simple start, right?
I think I had a sportscast as their, first half of their season, if you will, wrapped up, and I just talked about all the different times that they've choked away matches, and it was more than 3 or 4, if I remember correctly. It's been a minute, but I mean, Real Salt Lake, FC Dallas, those come off the top of my head. I know there's more. I'd have to go back and look, but that was tough for them. Their back line has just not been as good as it was last year, and I think they just need to be better in the attacking third. Marcus Ingvartsen has been the one guy that it feels like consistently can go there and score goals. Mal Pellegrino was dealing with some injuries at some point in times, earlier in the season. And Anders Dreyer has been more of an assist guy. We haven't seen him at the same level. And that was my big thing at the start of the season. Can Anders Dreyer really do what he did a season ago once again? Because that was the difference between them being one of the best teams in the Western Conference and not. And, now it's just like the goals are not there as much. His contributions overall have still been pretty good, all things considered. But this team overall, I think, needs to up its level because, I just mentioned, the back line, the attacking third, different guys getting going. They need more goal scorers. And as you said, a guy not like Chucky Lozano not playing this season, and they don't have him in the mix. They don't have another guy that you're just like, oh, man, this is what really makes them dangerous because they have, this big monster up front that can really, put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, they have the guy. He's just sitting there rotting on the bench, right? We've talked all about
the
Chucky.
He's allowed to practice by himself, okay, Jake?
We've talked all about this Chucky Lozano drama. It's gone on far too long for both sides. They need to figure this out. I know SDFC wants to bring in another DP to do exactly what Karthik and I are talking about and get some goal scoring going and uptick on offense, but they're kind of handcuffed until they figure out this Chucky Lozano thing. And Tyler Heaps did address that at the media availability. Here's what he had to say about Chucky.
Yeah, we'll offload for sure in a few different areas. I think Lozano is somebody that, again, we're trying to work with him and his representatives. Still nothing has changed from our side. He's still not training with the group. And so, yeah, trying to a lot of it's dependent on obviously him and his decision if he wants to continue to play football. And so we're trying to work with him in that and what that future could look like for him.
Are you anticipating that that's something that will get resolved during the transfer window? Or
I hope so. Yeah, I hope it got resolved last window, but unfortunately it's not only us making that decision, so trying to work with him and his representatives. There has been interest. We're trying to actively pursue that interest when it comes up. Again, it's largely timing, as all these deals are. It's really tricky where one day you have nothing and the next day there's something there and you've got to move quite quickly on it. And so we are trying, whenever those things do come up, to engage with him and his representatives to see if there's any interest there. And yeah, we're hoping that it gets resolved as quickly as possible for all parties.
As quickly as possible has not been as quickly as possible. I'll tell you that much for both parties, as Tyler mentioned there. So, I mean, there you go from at least Tyler's side of it. I would love if they could make Chucky available and we could hear, his side of it all and what's been going on. But that ain't ever happening, at least not while he's a member of San Diego Football Club. If I'm not mistaken, they're in the second transfer window. I think it goes from July 13th to September 2nd. So they got to get something done, Karthik.
Yeah, I think the thing is just with any sort of transfers are pretty much like trades, right? And the thing is when you put yourself in a bad position to trade away a player, I mean, let me put it like this. I'll rephrase it. If you got a guy just sitting on your bench, he's not playing with your team, he's just pretty much practicing by himself, which tells me he's not informed. Plus, you've already pretty much told me he's a locker room trouble right now. Why would I want him on my team? And if I do want him on my team, why am I giving you guys something valuable in return for said player? And I think that probably makes it a little more difficult because from San Diego FC's end, they're looking at it and they're like, okay, well, Chucky Lozano is a hell of a player. He's fantastic when he's on the pitch and he plays. That's a lot of marketable value we should be getting back. But then if I'm on the other side of this and I'm just like, okay, well, he's not informed, so now I got to get him into playing form, pretty much practice form because he's not even practicing. So I got to get him into practice form first. Then on top of that, I got to worry about if he's going to tear around all the morale around my clubhouse. That makes it tough too.
I had an interesting conversation when I was up covering the World Cup with a friend who's in the industry, and we were talking about the Chucky Lozano situation. And he said that, and look, in other countries, and I'm not saying this is a SDFC thing or not, but it is an SDFC thing because they kind of came out and said it. He said, look, in other countries, sometimes the star players are arrogant, and you got to let them be arrogant. Sometimes you have to let that person want the ball, be the ball. And SDFC kind of came out and was like, look, we're one team, we're one family. That's always been their message. I don't have anything wrong with it, but you could see why there was the friction and why it didn't fit. And then obviously we've heard about the locker room blow-ups and stuff like that. But for them to stand this strong, I mean, it's pretty much been a disaster.
I think at this point you can't integrate them back into the
team.
That's just absolutely not going to happen. I think the way in which it handled, I don't know a better way they could have done because they did reintroduce him to the team last season after he had that issue. He even scored a goal for the team, in the playoffs after he returned in a match, albeit that was pretty much, out of hand. I believe it was in that Vancouver one. But my point being is I just feel like the way that it was handled was a little, I don't want to say iffy, but I'm not going to really state whether I think it was the right way or wrong way because I'm not sure the inner mechanisms of what's going on. So I'll leave it at that. But I will say that I do think it's not a great position to be in if you're San Diego FC because you have pretty much lessened the value of the thing you're trying to transfer away.
Yeah. We'll see how it all shakes out, but they got to get something moving so they can get that next DP in there and hopefully be a little more competitive in the second part of their season. That'll do it for us here on the final quarter on the CBS 8 app. Karthik, you have exactly 15 seconds to say your final thoughts.
All right, shout out San Diego Wave. We'll see if they can stay near the top of the NWSL table without Dudinia for the rest of the season.
We appreciate you joining us on the CBS 8 app. For Karthik Venkatraman, I'm Jake Garriani. We will see you next week.